It's been 2 days since the grand public reveal of Halo Campaign Evolved. Reactions, I'd say, among at least hardcore Halo fans were somewhat mixed, and I'll admit, as you saw in my first impressions video, I definitely came away from the gameplay footage with some feelings of disappointment. Today, I want to put together a hopefully constructive video on what I feel like the remake is getting wrong. And listen, Halo Campaign Evolved does not have a set release date. We know it's coming out in 2026, so my hope is that my video and just fan feedback generally can be used to hopefully push the game in a good direction. I do also want to provide some context to those who don't understand why many Halo fans do have complaints. People see us talking about the material of Forerunner structures and they wonder why it really matters. Hopefully, with this video, you also can see my point of view. I do think I have a somewhat different philosophy than a lot of people. Personally, it's not change for change's sake, which really bothers me. If something is different, I'm not necessarily against it, and one example is the Needler. A lot of people really hate the fact that it's got this ammo counter, and I admit, it seems redundant with the visible needles. However, the Needler having or not having an ammo counter doesn't really change how I feel about the game or how the game makes me feel. Another example, Threshold has changed its position. That's the big gas giant. It used to be behind the player, now it's in front of them as they rush up the beach. That's a change, but one that doesn't necessarily bother me. I do like some of the vistas in the original game as you go around that first turn, but it's a relatively small loss, so it's whatever. I do actually want to start this video talking about Forerunner architecture because I think it's a really good example of how little things can add up in a major way to change how a game feels. 343, now Halo Studios, has really struggled with Forerunner architecture, completely missing the points through Halos 4 and 5, improving somewhat in Halo Infinite. We've unfortunately taken a step back for Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary, which is unfortunate because Forerunner architecture plays such a major role. It has unfortunately been reduced largely to shiny sci-fi metal, and the Silent Cartographer itself actually provides a really good illustration of why that matters. And I'm not talking about that initial brutalist structure you passed or even the hatch, which has gotten a lot of talk. We will come back to those. I want to discuss the entrance to the Cartographer itself. Going in this place for the first time is really strange. I'm just going to play some footage from Halo Combat Evolved without speaking. Do you notice something about the entrance to the Silent Cartographer? It's clearly not just an installation. Rather, it's part installation, but also part cathedral. A lot of people have discussed whether these walls are stone or concrete or sci-fi metal. It doesn't really matter, but they're utilitarian, they're smooth, except when they're adorned by these strange carvings. And the effect of those carvings with Marty McDonald's music as the structure disappears into the ground is really strange, and part of why Halo Combat Evolved is so special. The Forerunners are just so weird and unknowable, partially because they have these strange, brutalist, cathedral-like structures accompanied by essentially nonsense geometry and architecture, as anyone who's played the Silent Cartographer knows. Passages and walkways which go nowhere, massive chasms and pits disappearing to places unknown. This is a race so old and so strange, you will never be able to understand them, and little things like what their hallways look like plays a massive part into giving us that feeling. Whoever created this ring wasn't just advanced, they were advanced and they had some knowledge or belief. Another good example early on in the level, and we've got a direct comparison here from the new footage to the old, is the Forerunner security system. Again, you're going through these brutalist, somewhat plain, ancient-looking hallways, then you encounter this weird, alien, jumpy security system. One thing Bungie did a great job of with the Forerunners was implying this sort of grand secret or mystery, largely through the use of symbols and sigils. You see some of them here, and while Cortana can kind of understand what she's looking at, as a human, we have no idea, but it's weird. Just the way the artifacts are flying through the air really adds so much, especially when contrasted with the control panel, which looks almost designed as if for a human. Very interesting. The effects here are also gorgeous. The diffuse light projected from those side panels contrasted with this spinning structure. It's very, very nice. Then in the new footage, you have this security room, which it just has none of that. It's again, what 343 Forerunner stuff has often been, sort of just generic sci-fi effects. Nothing about this panel, nothing about this security map looks Forerunner to me as I understand it. Going back to the texture and material, I'll throw in some of the anniversary graphics to see what's lost. There is a place for the metallic style textures we see in this level. The control room, for example, the guts of Halo, that loses a lot of the ceremonial quality and is just metallic surfaces. But these are distinct areas. These are the maintenance corridors going through the heart of the ring. They should look different, and I feel like in this game, they're probably going to look the exact same. I can't believe we're still on Forerunner stuff. I had more to talk about. I think we will get there. But I also did mention those two external structures we see, and obviously I bring them up because that's all we have to go off of right now. The Forerunner stuff on the outside of this level should look like things purpose-built breaking through the surface of this crafted world. We don't need to understand what the purpose is, but a great example is the hatch we fight the hunters around. That's the same hatch Foehammer and the Pelican fly through at the end of the Silent Cartographer. We don't ever see how it opens or closes. We kind of see it at the end of the intro cutscene for Assault in the control room, but it's a hatch. It's a weird alien hatch, but the new game kind of just inserts generic Forerunner structure, which happens to be a shiny tower. It ends up making the entire sequence less memorable, and it removes some of the fun puzzle piecing together that you get after playing the level a second time. The Forerunner stuff outside of the ring should also not be so shiny. That's one point many people have touched on. It's ancient, it's meant to last forever, it's meant to feel timeless. Again, whether it's space concrete or space metal or space rock, it doesn't matter. It looks like something designed to last for a very long time, and you can actually contrast that with, for example, the pillars holding up the platform outside the Silent Cartographer. Those do seem to be metal, but everything else is this space stone, space concrete. It adds greatly to the liminal feel of Halo, and it's funny, I was going to make a video all about that. A lot of it's sort of getting thrown into this video, but liminality is the idea that you're in a transition state. Things are over and the next thing is coming. That's very much what Halo feels like as you're traversing the forgotten places of an unimaginably incredible civilization. It's old, it's untouched, but you are there now. I do want to talk about the ring itself because I feel like they've missed here as well. Halo CE, especially in the first 5 or so missions, has a very unique feel. And I don't know if I've really been able to describe why things like the twinkling of the stars, even in the broad daylight, or the deep dark blue sky contribute to the feeling so well, but I read a comment which really put it together. It's because you're on a ring. A megastructure, yes, but not a planet. There's a thin atmosphere. Day looks different than it does here on Earth, and that gives it a very unique and alien feel. Playing through the second level of the game Halo, I always felt this reminded me of like a cool autumn or December morning, and I'd never really put it together, but I guess that's why. This is a pretty easy fix as well. For one, you gotta clear out the skyboxes. This is something that Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary did as well. It drove me crazy. Halo CE has these beautiful but almost flat skies, and with the twinkling stars, it really is, to this day, an incredible effect. You can have clouds. The Silent Cartographer initially had clouds as well. Keep them low, change the color so that sky is the deep blue, and make the stars a bit more prominent. It helps you feel like you're on a ring. The ring itself is also okay, but not great. Someone pointed it out that the ring looking larger actually has the effect of making the megastructure itself seem smaller. If you look at the old game, you can see that the ring is massive near the horizon, but gets very small the further you look into the sky, which implies a larger overall structure. You're this tiny ant on this big, strange thing. Again, that's a small fix I think they could make, and I hope they take some feedback on. And again, a lot of these end up sounding like small things, but they come together to really hurt the tone and atmosphere of Halo, which again was so unique and even now makes you feel a little weird when you play through it. I'm going to save some of the discussion of liminality and Halo's vistas and everything else for a later video because I do want to make my video essay on that, but all of this is hurt even more by a lack of clean visual identity, which Halo Combat Evolved definitely had. It's different than the rest of the franchise, and I think that's part of the quote-unquote problem. And this is the exact same issue I had and many people had with Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary. The visual identity was lost, so Reach assets could be brought in. We have something very, very similar here, which is frustrating because they haven't learned from their mistakes. The Needler to me doesn't really matter. The new aesthetic is close enough to the old, but the Marines, the 343 era grunts, the lack of bold and bright colors, which CE had, it all takes away from some clarity that the initial game had and makes the remake look messy. And again, something which seems small, but which makes this problem even worse is the lack of visual shield feedback on the elites in favor of hit markers. It makes the game a lot more messy. This is something that can also be fixed. We know, for example, they do have a Needler model because it's in Halo Infinite, and I hope they're going to eventually make proper Marine models because, yes, Combat Evolved became the first entry in a larger franchise, but it also has this unique pulp sci-fi look with the massive planets dominating skyboxes, the long horizons, these colonial Marines style soldiers. Those are things that are instantly recognizable, as my friend Hidden Xperia would say, iconic, which are now missing. And the more of those things go missing, the more it feels like the heart of Halo Combat Evolved goes with it. And if you think you can do something better, okay, I'm open to that, but I haven't seen any evidence of that. It's the same as the Halo TV show. There's a reason this is the most popular Xbox game and one of the most popular games, period, of all time. There's a reason Halo has been released so many times. There's a reason people still play it. What they did was good. A lot of what I've said about adhering to the original when possible and when there's nothing better applies also to gameplay. There's no reason to remove the 60 ammo assault rifle. And on a broader note, Sprint, it does also ruin a lot of the game's original atmosphere. There are musical cues like the lead up to the security button, which are completely broken as people sprint through them. Now, to me, is that the end of the world? No, I think it's kind of just a reality of making a modern game in 2025. People are going to want sprint. We don't have to use it if we're a purist. Not really going to complain about that. Anyway, that's all the feedback I have for now. I haven't played the game. I haven't been asked to test the game, so I can't talk about how it plays. By all accounts, pretty good. And ultimately, that is the most important thing, but I do think there's some important feedback to take from everything else, and not just mine. A lot of people like the look of the game, and that's good too. I think the environments generally look pretty good. I think Unreal Engine helps with that, but I think Unreal Engine also gives the game a somewhat samey look, and we really, really need Halo's original bold art style to stand through that, or we're going to have another remake that in 10 years people are skipping for the original. Anyway, my thoughts, yours please down below, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.